Every infant that is in the womb expects to be born into an indigenous world. After 100 or 200,000 years of being human beings, we have acquired the genetic capacity to be born into an indigenous world and survive and prosper. The modern world, outside of a few epigenetic whispers, is a ghost land for us as human beings. And if we're to move out of that ghost land that we've been trapped in, we have to recognize that all human beings have the capacity for indigeneity. And that's what we were born to be, and that's the healthiest form that humans can take. It's not a matter of race, it's not a matter of ancestry, it's not a matter of where your ethnicity. Every human embryo, every fetus in the womb, every child being born expects to be born into an indigenous world. And that's something that we all share. My name is Robert Lovelace. My friends call me Bob. I live here at Eel Lake. I'm a member of the Ardoch Algonquin First Nation in Eastern Ontario, Canada. When I was about 30, I got involved inadvertently in Indian politics because the wild rice stands in our community were threatened by a non-Aboriginal harvester. And that drew me into working in the community and doing legal research. So my life has pretty well been occupied with Aboriginal rights. At some point, though, the elders that I was working with and I understood that the rights discourse was just part of the issue. The justice issues were just part of the issues, that we actually had cultural responsibilities that informed our original resistance. And those cultural responsibilities would be a way in which our community could be reinvigorated and reformed. And while fighting a campaign of resistance may only take a few years, the idea of re-indigenizing or reinvigorating your community takes a lot more than even a lifetime or two. I think resistance needs to sometimes happen. Certainly justice issues cry out for us to stand up for those who are oppressed, no doubt about that. And even putting our individual lives on the line when we're required to do so. But I also think that the lived experience of resistance should really be lived alternatives. Finding ways to be indigenous within this world. And I don't mean that for just people of Aboriginal heritage or indigenous heritage. I mean that for all of us. That we all have to find indigenous ways of living that all allow cultures to emerge out of the ecology that we live with. And that to me is probably the best inoculation against the sort of coming tide of collapse. It may mean that we have to build resiliency within our communities, and even if we have to migrate, to be able to do so in productive ways. We need to get out and know the world and know one another a lot more than we do. And that's a kind of resiliency. We need to learn about the land, and we need to learn the science of ecology from a verb-based point of view rather than a noun-based point of view. We don't need to count any more commodities. We really need to figure out the relationships that are natural to us and to creation as a whole. So those are the things that I see people that are really engaged in resistance doing. and more that I haven't named.
Would you call that a kind of commoning?
It is. Keep in mind that what we know as the commons emerges out of that European experience of the Dark Ages. And the commons is very much related to the rights discourse, which is fine. It's a step in the right direction, and it has a lot to do with resolving the justice issues. But it is not necessarily, it can almost be an ideology itself rather than allowing culture to emerge through the relationship with the land. One can be a supporter of the commons and still live in an apartment building in New York because they understand the ideology of the commons. And they go to the public library, which is a form of commons, and the right to be educated, the right to knowledge. That's all good stuff, but we need, I think about this in terms of, those are really good steps in the right direction. But, I like to think that one day there will be a large population of human beings that emerge from the womb and actually emerge into the world that they expect to come into. Which is an indigenous world. It's what we've been created to do.